6:42, call the meeting to order. The 6:40 agenda item is the tractor parade.
I guess that would be me. So first of all, I want to say thank you to all of Charlotte for letting us put on this loved event. For those who are there, they love it. And what I'm here for tonight is to, I guess I'm going to say who the board members are. Dean, is that what you want? Yep. On record. So myself, Debbie Christie, Cindy Bradley, June Bean, Dave Denton, Margaret Roddy, and Heather Manning, and then about 150 other volunteers. So we hired Northern Traffic Control a few years ago, and they are able to close down the 4 outskirt roads, which is Spear Street and Carpenter Road, Spear Street and Prindle, Heinsberg Road and Dorset Street, and Heinsberg Road and Guinea Road. They are able to stop it at 1 o'clock, and we should be open just about 2 o'clock, those roads. And our town constable will be there, and went really well the last few years. And we also, I guess we closed the road between Spear Street and Carpenter and Prindle, Heinsberg Road, Dorset.
Well, looks like the
Yeah,
lower 2 bullets are the summations
From
of
the
top
1 to
4.
2, yes, correct.
Yeah.
And also asking for, to be under the town insurance policy for that day, and like we have been. This is number 17. And
This is number 17?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So, I don't know, any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the Charlotte Tractor Parade, including the traffic control plan, the road closures, and accepting the event as a town event to be covered by insurance.
Thank you.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
All those, is there any discussion?
I think we should thank Carrie instead of thanking the town, because she's the one that puts it on. I think it's great.
With these, yep,
I
with
think
the
so,
help
so.
of every one of us sitting here, for one. It really is, it's like 200 people get together for that day to make the rest of them all pretty happy.
And it seems like the biggest event of bringing people together in town that I can think of. It's pretty amazing.
Well, not just people in town.
No,
There's a
they
lot,
come
there's a
from
lot of,
all
Oh, I mean,
a
people,
lot of tractors.
people,
that come from
yeah,
out of town,
of humans in our
Yeah.
town congregating in one place.
too. Yes.
So we are having a little bit of trouble with finding volunteers to man all of the areas. And for example, the children's area where we have the games and the prizes. And so we're doing it a little bit different this year. We're going to offer some of the games, but we'll find out if the prizes are missed or not. It's kind of a test year. And if anybody asks me why there's no prizes, I'm going to ask them to volunteer to disperse those for the little
For
kids.
next year.
But Sun Common is coming with their bouncy house, their bounce house, which that was a nice little change. I'm
The
not
town
doing
party?
Yep,
Yeah.
prizes, we'll do the bounce house, so it's kind of a trade-off. And so, good. I think that's,
Great, thank you, Carrie.
thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. And opposed? 6:45, the bench on Townlink Trail. Both co-chairs are here. Margaret and Lori, would you like to present?
I guess we're a little unclear about what we're presenting. Or-
What's the project? And we have a handout here. Did you guys prepare this?
Oh, okay. pictures of the benches. So we are interested this year in putting 3 benches on the Town Link Trail. We have been working with co-housing, and so far 2 of the benches have been put up. We work with them in terms of where to put them on the trail. The third bench, we want to put in the Melissa and Trevor Mack section of the Town Link Trail. And we've been working with Dean and also the owner of the vineyard, Sam Coppola. And I was out there about a week ago. I put a stake up saying where we thought we wanted it. It sounds like the manager at the vineyard is fine with that. I don't think Sam, the owner, has seen it yet. I think he's coming down this weekend, and hopefully, I know I'll be meeting with him. I don't know if Dean can meet with him or not, but anyway, we're going to meet with him and take a look at where it is. He also has a little covered area with some benches that he might be willing to offer as well as a place where people can sit along the trail. So that would, that might be an alternative. Well, we'll have to see. It's in a different place. It's a little closer to the house, and so I'll be a little more concerned about privacy for them and all of that, and that's why we put the bench out a little bit, or we'd like to put the bench out. So we're gonna meet with Sam hopefully this weekend and figure that out and go from there. I think this is an ongoing project. I don't think we'll put any more benches on the area, the completed section. I think 3 benches is plenty. But as we continue to complete sections, we will certainly want places for people to sit, kids and the elderly especially. Although some are in really good shape, but you never know. So we definitely want to be thinking about that. The benches that we're using in particular are the same ones that are at the beach. We decided we wanted to go for consistency. So those are the benches that we plan on using all the way along. We have one person who is willing to donate a bench, so that's nice, and we hope to be using that for fundraising as well, to maybe get people to donate a bench.
With a plaque? Will there be a plaque?
With a plaque,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely with a plaque. Yep. So I don't know if you have any questions
How
about
much
it.
does a bench cost, just out of curiosity?
It's an SD Ireland anyway, from what we've done in the past. Their portion of it is $200, and then it costs about $25 for the wood. And the 2 concrete pieces that they give us are already drilled with all the spots, and they give you the bolts to go with it. So really you just have to get whatever kind of wood you want, or ASIC, or whatever you want to put on your bench, and then just put them in.
We did, it seems possible that we're gonna need more benches. I've had a couple calls from people who have walked with their elderly parents and kind of been stuck out there on the trail. I noticed taking my own elderly parent around Shelburne Museum, and they have benches everywhere. And I don't think we're gonna need benches everywhere, but I wanna make sure that people who need them do have a place to sit.
Are the benches in the right of way, or is?
Yes, they have to be in the right of way, yes. I mean, unless, again, if Sam, the owner of the vineyard, says, well, I'd rather have it here and it's okay to have it on my land, I guess that's okay. The biggest issue with that, I think, would be a mowing issue.
Right.
Because if you have it right in the right of way, then it will
We
be
can
mowed.
maintain it.
So I think we would prefer to see them kept in the right of way.
What type of wood was chosen?
What did we choose in the end?
I think we ended up going with the pressure treated,
That's right. It is
which was
pressure
the same
treated,
that
yeah.
the beach had done.
Just lasts a lot longer.
Yeah, well, Good. Any other questions?
I was just wondering, because they're talking about putting it on the trail, but they haven't got the viewpoint from the landowner. So I'm just wondering if it would be something that we might want to, if we approved it, it would be something that would be conditional on the landowner. You know, to have some say in it. I don't know if that's something that could be done, because if
I
he
think
decides he
it's-
wants it out of, so he has more access or something, and he's allowing it to be put on closer to the edge of the right of way or on his property itself.
So I guess I'm not quite sure what you're asking, but I mean, I think it could be viewed as trail infrastructure, and we have a trail easement. So if it's within our easement, seems like it can go there. Really regard, I mean, I think they're being extra, friendly by offering, by asking the landowner where he would prefer it, but really, I think we have the right to put it in the trail easement.
Infrastructure is included in the easement.
Yeah.
I know with, like the bench for Larry Hamilton, the Park and Wildlife Committee came and presented, and then the select board approved the placement of it almost as a matter of ceremony. And I think the rec commission does that too. Is that something we would do with this?
Is that what tonight is, or?
Well, I guess that's my question for process. Is that what you were saying of approving this tonight, conditional that the landowner likes the placement?
Well, like Dean said, I mean, we have the right of way and we can put it there if we choose to approve it. I mean, they brought up the question of the landowner, so I'm just entertaining that idea. I mean, it's not something that has to be done. I'm just.
We are communicating because we want them to.
And if we approve it, we're gonna approve it in our own right of way. Where if they choose and the landowner chooses and they decide, well, wouldn't it be better if it was here, and they agreed with the landowner and it happened to be on the edge of it or just off from the right of way.
I mean, part of
But it
us-
doesn't have to be, I'm just saying.
Do you
Probably know
then,
about that.
I guess my question would be, do you need a legal document for that? If it's outside the right of way, we would want
I would,
a,
yeah,
technically, you'd want a legal document for that.
I would think you want it to be in the town right away.
yeah,
Right,
Because we also want to simplify Norway is what we were
Mhm.
put it down, really,
right. I think, I agree, I think probably in the right of way is probably gonna be the best choice.
Covered by insurance.
Yep, covered by everything.
The other thing that we would like to talk to him about, just sort of broach discussions about, would be potential parking on the vineyard property, right, as you come off of State Park Road, so that could potentially be another area for maybe 3 or 4 parking spots to use the trail. We haven't even talked to him about it, but that's something that, would be something to discuss with him.
Well, that would probably be outside of the easement, so it's probably gonna be an additional easement.
Right, so if that, just kind of a heads up,
Yeah.
that if that should come about, it's a nice way to have parking a little away from Mount Philo State Park and yet on the trail, so.
I guess if a meeting with the landowner about additional parking near the trail comes up, would you CC the select board on that? Just to have the opportunity to go to that meeting?
Oh, okay. I mean, I think if we meet about the trail, it would probably be this Sunday, and, I could certainly let everybody know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure.
And if we're working on process, because we probably are going to be putting, at least a half a dozen more benches along the trail at some point. So in the future, how should we notify you, or how do you want to do that? Because we finally found some benches that are relatively easy to put in. This has been a 3-year project trying to get these benches. because we didn't have anybody to install them. And now we've figured out, a way to get some benches that we can install.
I think this is a pretty familiar process. The rec commission has come to us, wanting to repair benches or replace the slats. The Park and Wildlife Committee has done the same at the park. And then, this is a fantastically illustrated kind of view of the bench without making that site visit, which is nice. So, I don't know, I like this. Did you guys?
Yeah, this is fine. The only thing I would do in the future is if we had a map of the trails and a location of the existing benches.
Well, we probably want that anyways
Of
for
the
the
big-
We are
future.
working on that, that is in
Yeah.
our budget.
Sure.
for
Next year,
Yeah.
yes, we are gonna get a map,
Priority.
we're gonna have a nice map, yes. And we'll
Great.
have all the
Printed one.
benches and parking sites.
That would,
and
that would be
trailheads.
great. It's just so the board knows what gets the whole picture.
That's a great idea, yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
Great,
I'm
thank
just
you.
wondering about shade in that one. There's no shade cover. It'll be
On
pretty hot
co-housing,
out there.
There's really not much.
This isn't co-housing.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, in co-housing, neither of them are under a tree.
It's hard because if you go any closer, you're right next to their barn or their house. And if you go closer to State Park Road, there's that house that's behind the hedge, but it's, whatever, Nancy Jenkins' house there.
Oh, right.
So that's kind of an awkward place too. So this was a place where it wasn't quite right in the vineyard, so that if they have equipment that they need to get in and out, we're not in their way. And yet it also has a beautiful view, and it's far enough away from the house, and it just ticked a lot of boxes. So, but it doesn't shake us. Yeah.
Well, do we have a motion to approve the bench?
I'll make the motion to approve the bench on the town link trail.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. 7 o'clock, running a little early. Any adjustments to the agenda? Great.
Oh, actually, no, there's one. It's a subtraction. One of the Thompson's Point leases is not ready yet.
Which, first?
The Robert Block.
So, yeah, lots 115 and 16. We'll just revisit that later.
Passover. Mary might have a comment on that.
All right.
Can you actually move that Thompson's Point lease up
In time.
in time?
Sure.
Are there any objections?
Fire department's not here yet, go for it.
Yeah.
Great. Any other adjustments to the agenda?
Not on the agenda?
Your tree warden is at 8 o'clock. You're early.
8 yes, 8 o'clock.
So I could, since we're ahead of ourselves anyway, can I jump in? I'm happy to wait till.
Well, let's try and fit you in after the Thompson's Point lease and as soon as possible. The next open slot when we're ahead of schedule. I think we're doing good with going early. Any other adjustments? Then next item is public comment. Rolling right through. Oh, public comment? Yes?
Would it be possible to, during the budget season, as the budgets come into the town hall, to get those at the time they come in? For, not only for me, but, and I don't know if you guys are interested in that or not, but sometimes there's a shorter period of time between the departments that are gonna be on the agenda and when the budgets come to me. And it would just be easier as they come in, have those copies. And if somebody makes a change, well, then I get the change. And I don't know if you guys would be interested in that, if somebody's really speedy on getting their budget in why wouldn't you want it?
To wait for the, to be.
Why wouldn't you want the copy like right then, and then you have it, if you're interested, that you, especially for the bigger departments, you have a chance to look it over before it actually gets to, you know, 3 or 4 days before it's on the agenda.
And
But
then,
I in particular would like them,
so Dean receives them,
yes.
and then they come into the packet
Right.
when they come up for agenda items. Dean, do you keep like a file with all of the budgets?
When they come in, sure, I'm not sitting on any right now.
Right.
I forward them usually as soon as they come in, so.
Great.
I'm not aware that there's any that
Great.
that are ready currently.
Okay, and if you have a file that Mary can come
Well,
check
it's
if
digital.
it's-
I just,
Oh,
they
it's
they
digital.
come in,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay, great.
Should there be a timeframe of when they're received to when we put them on the agenda? And that way it gives everybody enough time to look at them. I mean, it's just, I mean,
You have your agendas that, he's already put the departments on future agendas, he did that a while ago.
Kind of penciled in.
you're
Penciled
right,
in who was gonna be on what month, what date, or whatever.
right.
And all I'm saying is that if, as they come in, like, somebody emails you a budget, just send it out. Send it out. I don't know what you guys like, but I like it, like, right then. That's all I'm saying.
As soon as possible. Sounds good.
Let's see. Next select board item is Thompson's Point leases, lot 134 at 351 Lanes Lane. The item is to terminate the lease to JJZ Realty and approve a new 20-year lease to David and Catherine Cohn.
And you have that extra document in there that I emailed you, just the consent, that the mortgage company likes to have.
Is there anything unusual about this that we should know about?
No, some mortgage companies like to have, instead of us adding language to the lease, which we're not going to do, they want to have the thing that says the lease can be assigned to them. It takes care of their banking issues or whatever. We hardly ever use it, but every once in a while, there's a mortgage company or a bank that likes to use it, so I think we created it, Sissel's office created it maybe 2007 or 8.
So technicality is that they own the lease? Is that?
Well, if you just read the first little paragraph, it's pretty clear.
Of the lease itself?
No, the consent. The bank is protecting their interest. If there's a camp that goes into foreclosure or some silly thing.
Right, I read it, it was just, it was a consent form to, if they defaulted, the bank got control of the lease and had to adhere to the lease in the future until it got redone. So,
Yeah.
it seemed pretty straightforward to me.
Yep. Make a motion to terminate the current lease for lot 134, 351 Lanes Lane, and reissue it to, or approve a new 20-year lease to David and Catherine Cohen.
There's only one line for a select board member as a duly
To be,
authorized agent.
and to be approved by the, I guess it would be.
Can be you if you
It's
want.
not acting. I don't want to sign nothing. To be approved by the acting select board chairman, Matt Kreis. Okay.
Discussion?
Chair.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Passes 4-0.
Sign away.
that's just the one signature. Nope, two.
I'm gonna take it right now.
Right now, right this minute, before we lose it, huh?
Yeah.
That's why I don't sign it, we lose it.
Take it all of them?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, select board updates, 7:05.
Have we heard anything about State Park Road? I've asked, Dean has been trying to get the state highway people to meet about the, well, they've actually done 4 things to make that intersection worse than it used to be. They removed the warning, they increased the slope, which decreases the sight distance, and it's the only intersection between Virgins and Shelburne that does not have at least 12 feet between the fog line and the place where you're supposed to stop, or the limit line, as they call it. It's about 4 feet. So
Because
that
of
means you
the
have.
line of
and
sight.
They added a left turn lane, so that moved there's no shoulder there. So that gives you 4 feet of air, and then you're in the, and anyway, they haven't responded, and I hate to be pessimistic, but it sure smells like they're waiting until the contractor's done for the season.
Yeah.
So, final,
What do you think our
I think I
options
need to
are?
fire off a letter
Okay.
on behalf of the select board, if that's okay with you guys? Because I know
Absolutely.
Junior's waiting for it too, so,
Yeah, please, that would be great.
all right.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect, yeah.
The old lantern trial, Dean?
That's been scheduled for December 11th, 12th, and 13th. I asked the town attorney whether he thought it would be necessary for him to go, considering we're not scheduled to have any witnesses, and he thought it could be useful just for him to go to the first half day and get a sense of things, and then if it doesn't look like the town's going to have any issues that are come up, then he wouldn't stay. He would, wouldn't need to sit there and not do anything, so.
This is a wolf trial just basically between the neighbor and the old lantern.
Yes.
Are people okay with?
Why would we be?
Well, it doesn't mention
Involved.
the viability
The,
of,
the reason I think why I mentioned the town is because of, it has to do with the zoning bylaws. And not a decision, but by the zoning bylaws themselves.
Well, it sounds like a conservative and prudent approach to have our legal counsel there to start and then make a call if it's in our best interest to stay there. People okay with it?
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, if he finds anything that he feels he needs to be there more time, it'd probably be nice to know, but.
Can you email me, you're leaving tomorrow? You're on vacation tomorrow?
No, actually, I will be tomorrow.
Okay, can you send me that address?
For V-Trans?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
And I just wanted to give a quick update. The soccer jamboree was a huge success. Great weather meant a lot of people came and completely sold out of food, drinks, and water. Just a few baked goods were left that people donated and brought. So the fundraiser went well. Everyone had a great time. And hats off to Nicole doing such a great job putting that all together. I also wanted to just put in an update. I did want to get on a pretty soon future agenda item, the municipal project policy draft, so I can present that to the board. If not the next select board meeting, then the one following. That'd be great. And I think we have enough time. Maybe we can have Mark Dillon back, the tree warden. Present quickly before the CVFRS quarterly report.
CEO. So the request from the tree warden is to maintain level budget for fiscal year in question. That would be $1,500. Basically, we're going to do more or less what we did the previous year. There'll be a slight shift in funding away from per diem, not per diem, mileage reimbursements. The current team has tended to forego mileage reimbursements in favor of spending tree warden funds on other things. So we anticipate spending a little bit more money on workshops and trainings. We've got a good-sized team of enthusiastic amateurs, and we could all benefit from a little more training, of which there are many good opportunities here. And then possibly some additional small amount of spending on equipment, because we're doing pruning and tree maintenance and stuff like that.
Great. Any questions? Level funding
Level
is,
funding is good, right?
that's great.
All right. Well, thanks very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Just before the 7:15 item, I think that was Robert Block who just walked in. Do you think you could let him know that the agenda item got moved?
Mary already did.
Yeah. Just didn't want to sit here till 8:45. Let's see, the 8:15 agenda item. 7:15 agenda item, the CVFRS quarterly report and potential implications for the fiscal year 19 budget. Fritz, you want to?
President and Vice President, Tom Kozmuk, and I keep wanting to call you by your maiden name,
Gilbertson.
Gilbertson.
I know.
Meg Gilbertson,
The president and vice
Vice
president?
President.
Okay, great.
Tom's fallen as a firefighter, and Meg is on the ambulance crew.
And have you all met Kevin?
No, I'm Matt.
Oh, geez,
Nice to
okay.
meet you.
Didn't know you guys were coming.
Kevin Romano, new rescue chief.
What's Kevin's last name?
Romano. R-O-M-A-N-O.
Kevin St. George. Captain. And. And member of art.
What's that mean? That way.
There's one person from each department that is on the corporate board.
Oh.
So Devin's the firefighter member at large.
Great. It's great to see new faces.
Thanks for having us.
So, where's my budget papers?
This is what we're gonna do
Together
right
there.
here, right here.
We can go over these. This is the year-end, unaudited, or final quarter. You'll see that we are overspent slightly, so that eliminates, there'll still be a surplus calculation, but we're overspent by about $16,000. So that will reduce the surplus. What was the one of,
How much is in that surplus?
that should be on the back of the second page.
32,973.
32, so 16 comes out of it, that leaves 16 for future. I think the biggest budget buster for this budget is gonna continue to be probably, the only thing we know at this point, what is gonna be an issue in the future is insurance, both workers' comp and health insurance, with respect to the payroll. I think this, we went over for the last budget, the increase in payroll, because now the, and the ambulance crews 2 paid people for all chefs. And just, when that got absorbed, then I think, I don't know the health insurance has gone up significantly, and so is the workers' comp.
I know John Snow was really trying in the last 2 quarterly presentations to increase the professional staffing. Has that been something you've been able to do, and where are you guys with that?
That's Kevin.
Nice.
Right now, we've hired 4 more per diem personnel. But still, per diems are per diems. They do sometimes call out sick, or we still need to fill it out, the shift overtime, so we're trying to cut back on that. We're utilizing the volunteer staff as well more. We built this staff from when I first started last September, went from 6 to 20 volunteers. So we got a big increase in that.
Why is that? How did you do that?
Magic. It's just training, education, and a lot of outreach. People come in from different areas. We do have some from Charlotte. We do have quite a few from other towns as well that want to come to our town to work because of our training and education department that we run. We did an in-house EMT class, which helped out quite a bit.
Which we had 10, how many attendees?
We had 10.
10.
So that was a big influx because Kevin's able to teach that certification course as
I'm
a
a state
paramedic.
instructor coordinator, so we can also bring the education to the town as well for that.
We call him an instructor in alphabet soup, basically, because he can teach and train in most certifications, which is great. But because we were able to offer that class here, then a lot of the students got interested and then were willing to serve after that
As
class.
volunteers?
Correct.
So they spent 4 months in our station and they liked the way we did things and the things were running, and they said, "Can we join?" I said, "Absolutely."
Wow, great attitude. When did you come on board?
I came on last September 16 as the assistant chief of rescue, and I've been the chief of rescue for maybe 4 months.
That's right.
About that now, or 4 months now.
And what was your background before that?
My background before that, I've been in the fire and EMS service for 18 years. I was a former chief in Maine, former deputy fire chief for 7 years over there as well. I've served for American Medical Response as a paramedic supervisor for many years in the city of Manchester. So I mean, we have a lot of background as well about that. And then as far as college degrees in fire, EMS, and paramedicine.
It's just a great experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to have
A lot of
you.
fun.
Talk about the heart.
Oh, true, yes.
Yeah, he's also been instrumental in.
We've been working on a heart safe community project, which I believe, Dean, you've received some information about that?
Maybe the little senior center did?
Right, and then we have, so the Heart Safe Community Project is, we're one of, I believe, 10 towns in the state of Vermont that have reached a designation as a heart-conscious town. So one of the things we offer are CPR first aid programs at a minimal cost to townspeople to come in. There's dates set every single month. So the 3rd Monday of the month is Heart Saver CPR, 4th Monday is first aid. We're going to be doing quarterly informational meetings on like diabetes awareness. We're going to be doing cardiac care, things like that. People can really get information about it. We have the Public Safety Day coming up on the 21st. Where we're doing hands-on, let's say September.
No, you didn't say. I just said
Okay,
October.
October 21st, where we have multiple different agencies coming in to kind of show public safety. We have Dartmouth Hitchcock coming with a helicopter, they're going to be landing, Health Net from the hospital, the Warden Service, State Police. So we have a big community event we're going to be putting on as well to kind of, and we also have the state of Vermont EMS coming down to do a formal presentation of the heart safe community as well that day. So,
Would you be willing to put a small blurb of that into the Front Porch Forum for our towns?
yes,
We'll figure that
That
out,
would be
sure.
fantastic.
well, Charlotte,
Charlotte?
they have that already. We've reached out to 8 different media sources from the Addison Eagle. I'm still learning names out here, so, but from all different areas, we've put in different ads and press releases and things like that. And it's also being advertised in the schools, so the kids will get flyers during Fire Prevention Week, because the week after is when we're going to be having our event. We're also doing a barbecue as well to, in hopes, raise some money to put a defibrillator on the boat as well. So we're really trying to do a lot more.
Let's put donation buckets out, or
Exactly.
boots or something,
I know that we
scatter
talked
them
about
around
it.
in different areas, and a big sign at the tractor parade luncheon that we have. The drivers, they wanted a donation bucket. They people want to do that. No, it was for us, but
Yeah.
for the parade, but you guys could put buckets out and,
We're really pushing for the community outreach projects and programs and things like that, to kind of give back to the community for what the community's given us. I mean, I've seen a tremendous amount of community support since I've been here, and I've only been here for a year.
I met him early on.
She did, she did.
I was like, what brings you here to my store today? And he, oh, I'm hoping to be on your fire and rescue. No, I don't even think you had moved here. You were looking for a place to live.
Yep.
And did you find a place in town or, oh, great.
Yeah, we're in Congress neighborhood, so. We've moved quite a bit towards a very positive direction with the fire and EMS, so a lot of good things happening and a lot more coming to the future, different plans.
So what kind of questions can we answer for you, if any? I mean, I wish we had a crystal ball with regards to fiscal 19, but we can attempt to try.
Well, I wonder, is there, a paramedic or an EMT on duty 24/7, 7 days a week?
So right now, we have.
What's that look like?
We have a paramedic on 6 days a week. And the new schedule will be Monday through Saturday, paramedic coverage in the day shift, but after that, we run advanced EMT the rest of the shifts, which is a level below paramedic currently.
And what was Sunday?
Sunday is advanced EMT,
Okay.
as of right now. We do have some per diem medics, but it's, once again, they're per diem, they're required to do one shift a month right now.
So most of the time we have,
During the day.
during the day, we have somebody that could come to any one of us here in Charlotte.
Oh, paramedic.
Kind of paramedic level.
That's right.
Yep.
And do you want a refresher on the difference between advanced and paramedic level service? I mean, Kevin, you're probably the best to just
Would that be helpful?
quickly
Just to-
decipher what the difference is in terms
Oh,
of.
no, I kind
You're
of get
okay.
it.
Okay.
No, I get it.
Okay.
What happens if you guys are out of town? How often would you be out of town doing on-call
Providing services
service?
to the town if they need help. Well, it's interesting that Tom and I were just talking about that today. And I have rough numbers. Right now, the way it's looking is about 55% of our calls are in town, and about 45% or so mutual aid.
And so if you're out of town, are we covered still in town while you're out of town with,
So you're
we're
either
pretty good?
covered in town by a second ambulance if we're able to staff it, or just as other towns are covered by us when they're out taking a call, their mutual aid, so Shelburne or Virgins or Heinsberg would come in to assist Charlotte residents. That's,
And we really are working on the volunteers and doing a callback system, so that way if we are out of town, we're on paramedic intercept, or we're out with mutual aid for a full ambulance, that we're putting out an active 911 response to have a callback system, so they can come back in and cover the second ambulance while we were gone, so that the town is still covered. And we're working on it, it's a work in progress, but we're seeing positive progress with it. We do have a lot of new EMTs that just passed the program, and we're trying to get them trained to be alone on the ambulance. We're working on it pretty diligently to make sure we have the right coverage.
So that's actually a relatively new concept, is using the standby ambulance. It's, last year, it's happened a number of times, it hadn't happened at all before then, so.
it's having the staff trained and the volunteers trained to be
Yes.
able to jump on the second ambulance and go into service if the primary is out.
So on this, it says $16,000 net operation income, and it's a deficit. What's the main cause of that?
Payroll, probably.
Payroll and the benefits.
Yeah, payroll and benefits. In terms of.
Dues and subscriptions.
101, EMT workers' comp expenses.
Yeah.
Budget was 267 and the actual was 309. That was the big budget last year.
Yeah,
Okay.
Insurance was a quarter of it, about 4,000 over.
right.
Payroll's more, your insurance is
So I mean, as you look forward, you know, to try to begin to sort of address what your question, fundamental question was, what can we sort of, what's the vision for fiscal 2019? Obviously, we've got half of that fiscal year is 2018, and we know that Blue Cross Blue Shield called for a 12% rate increase. They're going to get, 9 and change. So we know that our insured people, we're going to have to shoulder that expense. The other thing to tack onto that, in a sense, from our medical insurance standpoint, is the fact that I think there are 2 people that are currently covered that are going from single benefit to a family benefit. So we know, you know, we know we're going to see, you know, $20,000 increase, you know, just from that component alone. So,
What is the benefit for employees? Is it 100% or?
No.
no, it's
100%.
no, definitely not. It's not.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah. No, it's like 2 steps down actuarially speaking, you know, in terms of, I don't know what the state of Vermont equivalent would be, maybe silver plan or something?
Sure.
I
It's
think it is
decent,
silver.
but it's not
Yeah.
gold or platinum.
Right.
Now, is that fully funded by the fire department, or is there a certain amount paid for by the?
Yeah, it's a partial. So
Is it a
employees are paying some
Right.
of
The
their
employees
insurance.
pay.
Yeah.
Right, because there's a difference between a co-pay and what they have to pay for care than it is to get the insurance. And there's some places have a percentage that's paid for by the company and a percentage is paid for by the employee.
So.
And I was just wondering if you had
You're going to figure this out tonight. I'll just come right out of it. Obviously, as new president, I've got a lot to learn. And I'm not actually sure about the detail of that.
Of the health insurance?
Oh, yeah, I mean, what is the employee contribution to premium?
So right now, the way the health insurance plan is it's if you're a single person coming in, it's a platinum plan, fully paid for by the service. It drops down to a gold plan if you're a family, and it might be like an 80-20 type deal, percentage. I can tell you, I believe the plan is currently for the gold plan is like $1,600-ish. Don't me that exact number. But and out of pocket for the employee, they pay in $700 per month.
Right, so there's the answer to
But
your
that's for
question.
the family plan. For the single plan, it's fully
Right, I was
covered.
wondering where that was on here.
I don't think
I don't
that's
think that
broken
breakdown
out
is in there.
here.
No.
No.
Portion paid by the department is under
Insurance.
insurance.
But it's wrapped into the
But
right,
overall
the portion-
insurance line.
Yeah.
Premium paid by the employee would not show up on this.
Right.
Rescue insurance right there.
Actually, no. So
No,
it's.
DMT benefits, right?
So if you look at the rescue, so we're looking at the report ending June 30th, 2017. Under rescue, about halfway down, you see EMT benefits. Actual expense, 17 grand. Right, so that's what we paid.
But that's only because we had one person who was collecting single, not
Right.
family, and we expect 2 to collect every
So that's-
family next
there
year.
will be
That was
a-
actually under budget.
Right,
Yeah, there'll be
right.
a substantial increase in that line item for sure. So, I mean, big picture stuff, the way I was looking at this, just trying to study this over the last couple of days, when we went from 17 to 18, total, there are 57 expense line items. And to go from 17 to 18, fiscal 18, of the 57, we increased 9, we decreased 7, and 41 we essentially level funded. But yet, obviously the budget goes up, it goes up, close to 60,000. Probably almost 85% of that is in some way, shape, or form compensation related to rescue. Okay? Between salary, between payroll, FICA, and benefits. So that's kind of the big picture. If you look at what's happened so far this year, if that's a little bit of an indication of the future, What's not in our 18 budget, I'm sorry, 17 budget, excuse me, 18 budget is the fact that ambulance fees, we've been able to raise our fees, both for regular transportation as well as Intercept, to some degree. That's not baked into the budget, so that should be actually a benefit to the town to some degree. The bottom line is not necessarily what the fee is that we charge. Of course, it's what does insurance pay. So we're still at the mercy of that. But in general, if the fees go up some, the insurance benefit should go up some as well. And that's not in the FY18 budget. So that's a positive. So.
What are the numbers mean at the beginning of some of these? First page says 1, 2, 4, 5. And it's on the next page it says there's 3 19s, it's 17.
The first page is a summary as is presented in the audit. So if you want to know what things are considered on the first page, which are in, say, line 19, utilities, there are 3, as you pointed out, 3 items that comprise.
So it's a category number.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I see. So payroll is a category 1, for example, in all cases.
And is this something that?
Thank you, Fritz.
That Patrice prepared?
Uh,
Microphone?
Yes, she works on this.
Great.
This has been presented this way for probably close to a year. But it's the goal was to have when the audit numbers be presented, so when the audit comes back, that you can easily correlate the audit to the information you've been getting. And then if you want further breakdown, you use those numbers to see which of the line items.
Easy to follow. Yeah. Any other questions? We're running a little over. Yeah, Christina?
I just have a question. I understand payroll and expenses like that can be unanticipated. I just have questions at quite a few categories, even though they seem small, they add up that are over. I'm just curious as to why they're over budget, some by a considerable amount, dues and subscriptions, 336% over. Phones is 139%. I mean, there's a lot of categories that are like that, and those are pretty steady budgeted items that are not affected by employees additional or benefits additional. So I'm just wondering why there's such a apparatus is over. It's for the reason that all these other categories are over too, on top of the employee benefits stuff.
Kevin, you can help me on this, but I think in that line item dues and subscriptions, it's not like magazines and
Right, and we pay district fees to have district representation, things like that. This is still new for me here, many services chief in the past with all these dues and subscriptions. But yeah, it's not magazines, it's actually what it's like district payments. So we have district representation, district medical directors and things like that, that kind of help us within District 3 to provide like training, education. I'm sure it's all part of that. I'm still learning.
What else? The other things that are in there are our scheduling platforms, for example.
That as well.
Which is a big thing. We went through a change, sort of a necessitated change to an upgraded and better way to schedule our services out.
So those are things that are not budgeted, then you don't get an amount of how much your subscriptions are going to be and your dues?
Yeah, there's also.
Part of all that stuff?
Yes. I think I'm understanding the questions.
Yeah, I'm just wondering
We
if
can't
they-
necessarily anticipate sort of necessitated change. It also includes like our emergency reporting system, which I believe we upgraded during the course of the year out of necessity.
Yeah, we use emergency reporting for the fire department, and then for as far as scheduling and vehicle maintenance, training records, everything is kept on what we call EMS e-schedule. That's another system that's about, I want to say it's a little over $3,000, I believe, a year for that system to be utilized. We don't hold that number, once again, I'm not exactly sure.
Well, a lot of the things like the workers' comp and is a bigger one, and a number of these things are on the calendar year. And when your budget year is 6 months off that, they don't give you an updated price till you've already had to turn in your budget.
I can't speak to the phone systems questions. I'm happy to try to get an answer. To any question that we can't answer, obviously, I'm happy to, come back with an answer
That would be great.
in any
Email.
provide it any way you want.
By email, I think would be great. Dean could forward that to people who have those questions. My take on this budget is considering the growing pains and the really positive growth that I've been seeing and hearing about with the fire and rescue. I think you stayed reasonably well within budget and considering a lot of growth that wasn't necessarily budgeted for. And, also is not costing the town any more money than the town budgeted for. So I think that's,
Can I just add one thing quickly? In anticipation of coming over tonight, we did a little bit of a review of the memorandum of agreement between the two organizations. And the things that jumped out at me were things like fiduciary responsibility, an environment of cooperation, open communication, transparency, and trust. Fiduciary duty came out again. And one other thing that I thought was curious, and I wondered if you could give some feedback on, which is that it talks about reviewing this agreement every 2 years. And I wasn't sure when the last time this agreement actually was
certainly is overdue.
discussed.
We should schedule a time to do that. That would be great.
Because it was drafted in, June of 14, so
And
We
this
think it
is-
might have been updated once since.
But we're not
then,
sure.
but-
This is my 4th year on the board, and I don't remember doing a formal.
We were both around, I don't think we've done formal review.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. We should do that soon.
I think the act of updating this could be kind of a really healthy exercise, frankly. So
That'd be great.
happy to be part of that.
Great. And Ellie, are you still involved with fire and rescue?
Yes,
I should
I'm
have moved.
doing a little consulting for the human resources.
Great.
I'm ex officio member of the board.
Wonderful. Well, we're all lucky to have you participating. If there's no other questions, thank you guys for coming down.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Well, the 8:45, 7:40 agenda item? Wow, I'm really itching. 7:30, we have Linda Radimer with the Wildlife Crossings. Hi, Linda. Good, yourself?
Brought my clocks.
Great.
Conservation Commission has been working to establish where these crossing corridors are. We had an earlier program that did a lot of surveying and foot road testing. And what we've got now are some game cameras. And we're just getting familiar with how to use them correctly. And we're going to be putting them in areas where we think there are frequent crossings. And so we had ordered in advance, and I'm sorry I didn't ask your permission earlier, but we had sort of crossing, we had signs warning. But they'd be like this up on a 10-foot pole. And I talked with Junior about the placement and the height and the requirements, so we're familiar with the 6 feet and 6 feet and 10-foot poles. We don't have the signposts yet, but this is another one. We didn't want to put down Bobcat Crossing. We didn't want to advertise that there were, and we expect that some crossings would be multiple use. So
One of those Prince Bobcat?
I think this is supposed to be, but it's not. So this is an example. So after talking with Junior, we needed to get your approval also for, we probably won't be setting these up in this year, probably down the road.
Is this something that the commission is formally voting on, or how does that work as far as when final placement decisions?
We've got a corridor committee, and we've studied the maps, and we've pinpointed areas that we are going to place the cameras. So I would say within a year, we'll have enough data to try to establish at least a few of these areas. I think we bought enough signage for about 7 crossings, including a turtle.
What's the cost of the sign?
These, we spent $400 on signs to date. And the posts will probably be, depending on where we get them and the heavy grade of them or not, will probably cost about, I don't know. I don't really want to say, because I looked briefly, I talked to Junior about where they buy them, and they get them at Lafayette's up in Essex. So I'm assuming it'll be somewhere around $35 for a 10-foot pole of good quality. So 400 there are many more. There are more. I can go get the receipt. I don't remember. I got somewhere in there.
Any of the reflective signs, if they're standard, last time, sure.
I don't know what the authorities are. I know the few times that people have requested to have non-legally binding signs put up, advisory signs. The select board has approved them. I think the most recent one was a slow horse crossing on the border of Charlotte over by Orchard Road. And some of the residents came and asked, this is a part of a town committee, but I think it would be a good idea once you've, in a year or so, when you've narrowed down the locations that the commission would like to have the signs, to maybe have the select board do a site visit and just look at those locations and see what that would look like. Or a map.
Yeah, that's fine. We'd be glad to do that. I think I know that the deer have been in enough places so that we have documented. I don't know if the town keeps records of where collisions are.
Would it be the state police?
Would it be more than if the deer?
Usually if the deer doesn't make it, the game warden comes to pick up the carcass. So there's
Right,
probably
if
a
the
record
deer
of that.
hasn't trotted
If
on.
the deer's trotted off, then it's probably,
Yeah. Well, we know we had bobcat up on Route 7. We know that there are deer near the Foot Farm. And of course, primarily these would be on this higher speed roads, the blacktop, even though that we know there are crossings on some of the dirt roads.
That's amazing. I'm gonna knock on wood as I say this, but I've driven back and forth on Heinsberg Charlotte Road, at least from Spear to Mount Philo, 25 years. I have never seen a deer yet.
Really?
Across north and south. Yep. I find that fascinating.
My sister had one smush his face up against her car window below the Foot
Last
Farm.
time it was about 3/4 of a mile east of J&A.
Heinsberg Way.
Heading over.
in my driveway, but it stopped there, I knew it was coming. Not even know it was coming. Just stopped.
We're glad to do that.
Yeah.
We'll let you know.
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
The 7:40 agenda item, Scott Harvey, open space agreement. Hi, welcome. Dean, do you want to give a primer?
Scott was approved for a two-lot subdivision on Mount Philo Road. And one of the requirements was that he provide an open space agreement on the eastern portion of the property. So on this survey, north is to the right. And basically, there's a stream, unnamed stream along the eastern portion of the property, and the open space buffers the stream. So it's shown on the survey. The document has been prepared by me. I used the basic, the document that we've used in the past and referred to the stream. And I think Scott's ready to have it approved.
Basically a formality. Right.
Will they still be able to mow that strip or plant that strip at all, or too close to that unnamed stream?
They used to till it and plant corn through it.
There's no restriction in the document as far as mowing goes. Just curious.
I'll make a motion to approve the open space agreement for Scott Hardy. Pursuant to the minutes, there's gotta be a number for that.
On a permit application.
Permit application
PC.
PC 17-49-SG. Sure, okay. Reference to that.
I think in the middle there's a circle. Kevin L. LaRose, number 707.
That's his surveyor's
And the
license
pro-
number.
Yeah.
So I guess we should
Project
just-
number 13-064 or 84.
Dated the map.
What's the
March
question?
26th.
How to reference the map?
Okay, we could use the revision date, which is 9/18. It's under the seal.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Revised 9/18/7.
Let's make it dated March 26, 2014, revised 9/18/17.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Further discussion?
I'm just wondering, I don't know when you're closing, if it's coming up soon, whether you authorize Matt to sign it.
Yeah, please.
No more discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Is there an official copy that I should sign?
Actually, that would be fine, but it needs a notary, I believe.
What's that?
It needs a notary
So maybe do it after the
after the
meeting?
meeting with,
Great.
Yeah, Mary do it.
Is anyone going to be here who's notary?
so it'll be ready tomorrow.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe
he'll
we'll
be-
come by tomorrow.
You're on the hook now.
And I can say,
Great.
8.
Okay.
I'll be here a little bit later, actually, 8:30.
Great. Only running a little behind. The 7:45 agenda item, budget presentations, continued. Recreation Capital Reserve Fund. Hey.
Again, thank you to Nicole for a couple weeks ago, did the recreation budget. What we're looking at now in recreation is how to move forward with as much information to you and from you with regards to our major capital expenses, and both potential capital expenses and that are sort of existing, and then new ideas that we are coming up with. The primary expense coming up, which sort of triggered this thought, is and has been our tennis courts. We have 3 tennis courts at the beach. They are asphalt, and 2 years ago they sustained very severe cracking, and we have now repaired those. The annual repair cost will be and is approximately $1,000 to $1,500, and then every 5 to 7 years, shall we say, the court should be recovered, repainted, and relined, and that's at an expense of approximately $7,000 to $8,000. However, that doesn't address the structural issues, the ongoing structural issues of our tennis courts. And what we'd like to do is address that problem. We've had, I think in your package delivered today, we had a quote from an information from a major installer of tennis courts in Massachusetts and New England, and they no longer install asphalt tennis courts in New England. They just don't do it. And the reason is fairly clear in the package and the information that I gave you. And that is that in the ongoing expense category of an asphalt court versus a stressed concrete court, it is a fairly obvious financial benefit to put in the stressed concrete. However, you know, it's a big expense, and what I guess we're doing is just bringing to you the question of where you would like us to go with this issue and this problem, or not problem. It's tennis courts that we have and we'd like to maintain. So, if you have specific questions with regards to tennis courts, I think I can try to answer them to the best of my ability, and then maybe we can go on to some other items that we see pending.
How does the repair play, for lack of a better description? I mean,
Yeah.
it's there. It doesn't. The repair is not.
There's two types of repair. There's armor crack, which is it's actually a piece of fiberglass material, and this is what we did not pay for because it's about $20 a foot to do a crack, and it's sort of superficial and it's sort of hollow underneath, but it is warranted for 5 years. What we did pay for in the crack repair was the filling of the crack with a mortar material and then basically sort of painting over the crack. So it probably actually plays better than the armor crack repair because you have a hollow space underneath the armor crack repair, but it won't crack for 5 years.
Obviously have some sort of mold on either side of that repair.
With the one we have now, not really. They do a pretty good job. They sand it down, and they use just a big tool to flatten it on so it's even with both sides. But just to give you an idea, our tennis courts were not built to the specifications that today's tennis courts are built to.
When were they built?
Approximately 20 years ago, 20, 25 years ago. Craig could probably give you an exact date, but Craig Reynolds.
97?
When I was on the select board,
Must have been longer than that, right?
right after the Civil War.
Yeah.
Oh, 1897. No,
Okay, so mid-90s,
okay, mid-90s.
thereabouts. And they were not built high enough. The drainage was not, we've since, in the last 15 years, put in a perimeter drain, which is functioning. And that was sort of a stopgap measure, was hoping that it would work, and it probably did work to some extent. But when we had the really cold snap of a couple of years ago, I mean, people on everybody saw the cracks, so they were 350 feet of cracks on the tennis courts. So, you've seen in the package, if you want me to continue going forward, go ahead.
How much is a stressed concrete
Court, so 3
new?
brand new tennis courts.
Which would be replacing what we have?
Replacing what we have, $190,000. Correct. Without other
bids. Yeah.
Without other bids.
And
And you saw that in asphalt, it would be about $150,000 to do it.
what's the technical description of stressed concrete? Does it have like fiberglass in it, or
No,
it's just?
what they do is they lay an enclosed cable. It's a plastic enclosed cable across the entire area in like a cross-hatching back and forth, crisscross. And then they pour the concrete, let it harden to a certain extent, and then they put these huge hydraulic vices on either end. They stretch the cable and then lock it so that the concrete is stressed under, compressed from like, I don't know, probably 100 cables one way and 60 cables the other way. They're about every 4 feet, 3 or 4 feet.
It's a common, well-proven technology for eliminating cracks in slabs. They use it in houses that are built on slabs in lieu of trying to guess foundation and settlement. They use it in high-rise buildings. They use them all over the place. And it just pulls it together, so when the concrete thinks it's gonna crack, it has to overcome
Cable.
the tension. And they're usually like 80 to 150 PSI in each cable.
Wow.
So, but it's been around for a long time.
And it's warranted for 25 years. It's got a 25-year warranty on it.
Warranty, no.
No cracks.
Okay. So 190 divided by, so there'd be no maintenance costs for 25 years.
There would be painting of the courts on an as-necessary basis, but probably less frequently than we do with asphalt because we're getting the cracks. So we have this sort of Frankenstein-looking courts because of all the cracks that we've painted. So we paint them every 7 to 10 years as it is, but so probably less.
And just so that I can start to think about apples and oranges, the 5 years, you said it was 5 years, every 5 years, a $7,000 to $8,000?
Yeah, 5 to 7 years, depending upon the amount of crack filling that we do and the wear and tear on the courts.
So that would be 5 intervals of a 25-year life on a new court.
Yes.
So that's like 40,000, and then the annual of another 20. Okay, got it.
It's right here on page 2.
Thank you.
It's the difference in what we repaired, the maintenance.
That's assuming you don't have yearly crack repair. If you get a bad winter, 3 years in a row, it's gonna, cracks will should be repaired every time. Otherwise, if they're not repaired, they fill with water and get worse.
Do you remember?
We had also the people that have maintained these courts for a number of years now, Advantage Tennis in St. Johnsbury. They have looked at the courts and have not given us, I'm not sure that they are capable of doing the concrete work, but basically he's the one that's given us the information that the asphalt that we have, he's looked at it. In his words, we're putting good money after good money by continually filling the cracks. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, it will crack this winter. We will have cracks again annually. If we don't, it stays above freezing most of the winter, that's great. But generally that doesn't happen here.
So we ultimately, when we were discussing this during our meetings, is that we figure out how much it's going to cost, whether we have to do the drainage or, like we said, replace the entire tennis courts. What are we going to look at? What should we be asking for to go into our capital fund yearly? With seeing such a large cost, instead of just coming saying this what we'd like, we thought of not only tennis courts but some of our other projects that, like the playground and different things that we know will need some attention over the years. So looking at how do we build our capital fund, looking at how do we get grants and fundraise so that we can make some of these projects actually happen, because I think that we haven't seen too much, I guess, or since I've been here, just asking for something larger that there's a need for. There is a need to fix the tennis courts. There is a need to fix the playground and some other things that I think that the new commissioners that came on board are really excited about, and I think that it would really enhance the beach and the area around us.
Maybe we could hear some of the other large capital expenses that we might be looking at in the next 20 years.
If you remember, we mentioned when actually Deb Stone was a rec coordinator, a new playground at the beach. And she presented a quote for that, it must be 5-6 years, maybe.
2012.
2012, so 5-6 years ago. And that was about $70,000 for a new playground down at the beach with us, again, with a full design, and that was not including installation. With volunteer installation, it was an extra, it was about $1,000 if we as a rec commission helped the company install it. That was a local Burlington company, I think maybe the same one that did the one at the school. So that's out there. The playground that we have at the beach now is basic, rudimentary, and we've changed it to abide by some of the ADA recommendations. But again, it's probably 25 years old or so. It gets fairly regular use, quite regular use. And Then they also, if you want to look at the bathhouse is again pretty close to its life expectancy with regards to the siding. It's a very basic not A-frame structure, but kind of 4 walls and a roof. We renewed one side of siding about 5 or 6 years ago, and that was a result of vandalism. We had more vandalism there, and we had more of the siding ripped off on one side. So we're looking at upgrading down at the beach, and I think given the direction that the beach is heading with regards to its usage and the attraction that it provides for our residents and outsiders, as far as a revenue stream it's underutilized as a revenue stream at the moment, which gets me to another major point is I do want the town to do some research as to whether we can actually start generating revenue there. We've had this over our heads for a number of years that the beach was purchased and using some federal money, and one of the caveats was that we were not allowed to have a business there. It wasn't allowed, there was no commercial activity to be allowed at the beach. So, but I haven't seen that in writing anywhere. I don't think anybody on the commission at this present time has seen it in writing. And so I think it's an interesting concept going forward, whereby, you know, we've been allowed to charge for parking. That's been since day one, but otherwise we've not been allowed to generate revenue at the beach.
Mary or Bob, do you have any insight right off the top of your head without diving into the record books?
Why we have no commercial or not
Well, I don't
allowed?
know what you are meaning by commercial operation. I don't think the town is in the business of running a commercial operation.
No, but I was led to believe like food trucks. We couldn't have a food truck there and take a percentage of the revenue, or we couldn't sell water at the bathhouse, or or those sorts of things. Do you know anything of that? You know, if we wanted a Ben and Jerry's stall for one of our concerts or something.
What he's talking about might go back to when they borrowed money and had federal funds. Okay, like Shelburne did not do that. And only Shelburne residents can use Shelburne Beach because we use federal funds for our beach to build it. There were specifications in there that we had to allow the public to come in. We could charge them, but we had to allow that. And I'll bet you that paperwork probably would describe what you're talking about, where that is. And I don't know how far back that goes.
Anyway, it's sort of, it's parenthetic. I'm just putting it in there because I do think it's a fairly major question that we want to have answered going forward, because, you know, if we are able to generate some of our own income, it would probably make a fairly significant difference to the way you handle the argument of financing our potential projects going forward.
You know, Kingsland Bay State Park charges, I think, about $2,500 per wedding event. They're not allowed to close. It's not allowed to be a private event. The state park is still open. Mount Philo has lots of weddings at the top of Mount Philo, and they charge money. The state does, and it's a good revenue stream. So if that's kind of what you're talking about.
And we've always charged for parking, and so when we have a wedding, we've had several, or we have a private events at the beach, we've generally not charged for the event, we charge for parking.
Okay, well, I think, yeah, that'll be something good to look into.
We have huge traffic down there, so it's, and again, I also want to be sensitive to the fact that we don't want to create a Coney Island, but, so anyway, fire away.
I guess. Pardon?
Roller coaster would be cool.
Some common comes with a bouncy house.
Is there any records of the tennis courts being used I mean, you know, their use. I'm just trying to figure out whether 3 is the proper amount to have there.
Well,
Whether whether we should go down to 2 or 1, or whether should we go up to 4 or 5. I mean, I've been.
I have to correct myself because I've always referred to them as tennis courts. They are not, in fact, tennis courts. They are now pickleball courts or general usage courts because now pickleball has exceeded, I would say, the usage. They are now using 3 courts, 15 to 20 people for 2 nights a week. So all 3 courts, and we have the 3rd court lined for pickleball. So I'd like you, and forgive me, I should have mentioned, we talked about this in our meeting, they are more than tennis courts. They are now pickleball courts. And going forward, we may want to consider a sport court type of situation whereby a basketball net's put up there too. You know, we're getting a lot of teenage use down there, most of it, or some of it associated with vandalism. Maybe if we give the outlet of other activities, they'll forget about spray painting the door.
I think basketball court would be great. Actually, my dad was just telling me about Philadelphia is the capital of murals. And I guess the city did some research and realized that spray painting and tagging was not happening on murals because it was someone else's art form they didn't want to deface. So the city just decided to permit murals everywhere, and graffiti has gone down. So maybe thinking about some other creative options, or that as one.
Perhaps Mary can also explain, we used to have the fund, the capital fund, our capital fund used to be funded by a fee that was included in development permit. And so we used to have planning.
Right.
Right, but and it was
Per lot.
per lot, right? It was
Wow.
and there was, you know, at times several $100,000 in there.
How long ago was that? Its heyday?
Before my time.
When I was in county, yeah.
90s?
I think there was a reason that we weren't allowed to do that impact fee anymore, and I don't remember what the.
Yes,
what the
Craig
reason was.
explained that it was something, it was not, somebody sued the town because of that fee, because it was not
Equitable.
there was some inequality, perceived inequality to it, and so they got rid of it. I don't know the specific details. Craig remembered, and I'm sorry, I don't exactly remember.
It needs a capital budget and an impact fee ordinance, which it didn't have.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So the capital reserve fund exists for the beach. A small amount goes into it every year. And this is really just a discussion looking at, it seems to me, I'm trying to summarize, some larger items that may have not been discussed recently. And also possibly the structure of funding some of these.
Yeah, it's a big picture conversation that you as the purveyor of all things wise are sort of in control of.
Are there other big ones that might be out there? I have the tennis courts, playgrounds, bathhouse.
Well, you know, you certainly live the rink hut. I mean, the rink hut is pretty much a disaster. You know, it works, it functions. One of the windows is now out completely. It will be repaired. But part of my argument going previously has always been, we don't really want to make them too pretty and too nice because someone's going to abuse it, and then we're going to get really upset because they spray painted the door or ripped the siding off it or knocked a window out. And so we've always sort of kept, for instance, the rink house fairly basic, and it functions, but it won't function for that much longer. So there's the rink.
I would recommend that the rec commission just lays it out sort of like the fire department does, you know, the tennis courts, 20 years, so much money, the rink hut, 10 years, just put it all down and the dollar and go over it with the commission as to which one they think is more important, which one they want to do first. and lay it out there so the rest of the city can see. Town.
Yeah, if you pick up a copy of the capital reserve budget for fire and rescue, it might be just a good model to look at. I just did a quick little calculation for the tennis courts. If we took 5-year intervals of $8,000 maintenance is $40,000 that the town wouldn't be spending on a new court. That's warranted for 25 years. And annual repairs of $1,000 a year we wouldn't be spending on a warranted court is $25,000. That would leave $125,000 to pay for. Over 25 years is $5,000 a year for a brand new stress concrete court. Seems pretty reasonable. You know, so if we can start to look at these capital expenses, you know, in that lens and break it out over 20, 25-year periods, I think we could move forward with it.
That's exactly why we wanted to have this conversation, because we didn't want to come in 10 years and say we need to bond new tennis courts.
The other thing is, from my point of view, is wondering, you know, in your timeline, how quickly we might get a presentation to you to start funding it to the taxpayers in March. You know, how, or do we have to wait till next March? I mean, we're just kind of looking for some guidance on getting the presentation going.
I guess it depends how quickly this is my take, how quickly the rec commission can come up with something to present, but we're in the. Yeah, I mean, we're in the.
We're ready to go.
Okay, so as far as, this is like the penciling session, I think late November we'll really sharpen pencils. We'll have everyone's budget requests, and we can kind of be a little more discriminating. And, you know, our goal is to pretty much keep a level funded budget and also make sure that we're being fiduciarily responsible. You know, there is a forecast of a reduction in the overall tax, not the municipal budget. And so we're probably going to want to be cognizant of honoring that. You know, the education fund is going to be less expensive this year, the education portion of people's tax bill, because of the consolidation. But
we will have all of our projections to you by a date that you give us.
okay. Dean, do you know when they're penciled in to come back to the stuff?
We don't have that far, yeah, I mean, November is what we're targeting for the revisits.
November. And, you know, currently, a request comes in every year for the capital reserve fund. So if it's a bigger request, we can look at that and kind of evaluate if it's something.
Right. Or we can, you know, leave it there and present it at the town meeting and let the voters do what they do.
Yeah, there can always be 4, you know, amendments to that number too.
Sure, thank you. I think we as a commission wanted to present to you without kind of too much surprise what we are thinking, and that's what this meeting is all about, right? So
Yeah.
now you know.
Go for it.
Okay, we will. Thank you.
Thanks.
I don't know how much longer we and Christina are going to stay for. There was the document to sign with a notary.
Oh, the notary? Well, we're 1 minute ahead of schedule. Do we have time to do that? What's that? I can sign quickly. Here. You did not. I signed where it says 2017. Yeah, this is the open space agreement.
Okay, we haven't gotten to that. Actually, Howard Block is going to proceed with his, so you might as well do that at the same time. Approve the lease, the termination and the lease. Termination by Robert and Nancy Block.
That's an 8:45, and we still have.
Well, I don't know, I guess that's not really in a hurry. They're not closing on that. Sorry.
They are closing on it, but it's just whatever, just sign that. Keep going.
This is
The open space agreement.
This is the open space agreement for
Scott Hardy.
Scott Hardy. I won't fill that in. Before me, notary. And is this part you do, or is that me? Thank you.
And then are we gonna just record this or?
You can give it to me. Scott hasn't signed it yet.
8:15.
Miss Creek is here.
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back. I'll hop up here. Do you all have the formal written request I emailed to Dean? Yes, perfect. Okay, so we're requesting $600 this year, and we've done this for the past several years. And this is basically to cover all of the special projects that we do in Charlotte. So we do a lot in the town annually. We have our water quality monitoring program, and this year we've actually been focusing, along with next year, on doing bracket monitoring specifically in Charlotte and Thorpe Brook. We also do invasive species monitoring here, including yellow iris and frogbit control, which we're looking to expand next year to flowering rush, hopefully, in the Town Farm Bay wetland. And then we have our ahead of the storm site, which there's about 15 sites right now in different towns, Charlotte, Heinsberg, and Shelburne, but the majority of them are in Charlotte, and that's for flood resilience and stormwater mitigation. So, yeah, it's just a flat fee that we're requesting like we have in past years.
I know the frog bit used to be included with the Conservation Commission. Is that, there was a fair amount of money.
That's true, yeah, most of that is, and then any extra that we're doing is to expand that program, so while we're out there, starting to monitor different invasive species that are on our list.
So that is going to be covered by the Conservation Commission?
The frog bed is covered by the Conservation
Okay.
Commission.
What are the other, are you familiar with the other invasives that you'd be looking at?
Yeah, there's flowering rush that we're looking into, which is the big one. Purple loosestrife we're gonna be taking a look at. Curly leaf pondweed, and Eurasian water milfoil. And this is all information we got on Friday from some technical advisors we have that work at the state. These were their recommendations.
And what do you do with the managing the ahead of the storm? Is it just the paperwork? You don't do anything with the actual sites, like maintenance, or?
I think Lewis Creek Association played a very important role in the East Thompson's Point Road project in terms of contacting the landowner, contacting the engineer, and kind of facilitating that process.
Yeah. So we help with all the project scoping, and we do the site visits, and then we're usually the ones to apply for those grants. And of course, we don't get paid to apply for grants, but that's hours of research that we have to do and time spent writing the grants. Next year, we're looking to potentially work with the Mount Philo Hot Farm to do an ahead of the storm site there, to do more of a preventative practice.
Are there any questions?
So there's the $600 here, there's the frog bit one. Do you know how much are we waiting?
That's $2,700, yeah, that we budget through the Conservation Commission. And that covers some of the water quality monitoring as well.
Okay. When I was on the Conservation Commission, they wanted to get rid of having to ask for that money. I'm surprised that it went back, but I'm not on it anymore. So that
It says here, Charlotte's $600 contribution is expected to help administer the annual programs that include more than $70,000 of special grants, grant-funded projects. What is do you know the operating budget of Lewis Creek Association?
Yeah, so we have about $100,000 annually budget. And I have the further breakdown of that right here. So, yeah, 73,000 of that is put back into grants, usually to pay for consultants, specifically engineers. And then 15,000 is to afford the executive director. 3,000 is for labor. Then the rest is for accounting, insurance, etc. Yeah,
Portion of the budget.
but yeah, every little bit counts though, yeah.
Questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you for your presentation.
Yes, sir.
Dean, will they come back for a second presentation, or that's pretty much it?
Yeah, unless you want them to.
Yeah, I don't think so. I guess if we do, Dean would contact you.
Okay,
Thanks.
sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a little time before the all hazards mitigation plan. Did you want to get that in? Would you give us a,
It's a sale, so basically you're terminating the lease to Robert and Nancy Block and approving a new lease to the new owner.
Motion to terminate the lease with Robert Block, Nancy Block, for lots 115 and 116 at 796 Flat Rock Road.
so second?
Second?
Is that? Would be a separate motion. Easier to do separate.
Did you, there's only one.
There's only one
signature line?
thing, so it'd be to continue that to approve a new 20-year lease to Thomas Knox, trustee of Joanne W. Knox in the trust.
No, I think you should read the lease because they changed the name about so many times.
Okay.
They changed the name of the lease.
No, they're gonna combine it. They decided they wanted to combine it as a single one like you suggested. Thank you.
It's a JWZ or something like that.
So. JWK Thompson's Point LLC. That is the new.
Yep.
Who is going to enter into the new lease? JWK Thompson's Point LLC.
Have there been other LLCs? Are there other LLCs that are leaseholders?
And does the motion read for
To be signed by,
the duly authorized agent?
yep. To be signed by
Carrie.
our acting chair.
Yeah, there you go.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Opposed? Guess I skipped discussion.
Just Big Ten authorized.
Should I wait to do this?
No, it's fine. We're good to go.
I can't resist.
Trust me.
I do. That's the termination.
Yep.
Thank you. Still a little ahead of schedule?
We'll do minutes.
Approve minutes.
Approve minutes, 8:50. I don't have my minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of September 11th.
I don't think it
This may
matters.
be
that I wasn't
amended.
here.
Second.
Oh, I was here. Thanks.
Oh, have we gotten anybody interested in moderator? Dean?
I have not received any applications yet.
Well, Matt, maybe you're gonna have to be the moderator.
I don't know. Is that a compatible office?
It is.
Oh, boy.
In fact, if there is no moderator, the select board chair is the moderator.
The select board chair, not the acting chair.
Well, the select board chair might be vacant, or might be absent rather. And
Huh. I'll think about finding someone. Any other edits or any edits? All those in favor of approving the minutes of September 11th, 2017, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Minutes pass. The 8:30 item, the all hazards mitigation plan.
okay, let me introduce Dan Albrecht from Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, once upon a time Charlotte Town Administrator.
Select board is.
Select board.
Oh, that's true. Oh, that's true. Okay. So, Dan, I do want to say, Dan, I appreciate work that Dan's done to put this together. He's been the point person for the county, and he can walk us through it. As far as the process goes, just briefly, the select board indicates you're accepting the plan, then it goes to FEMA, they have to approve it, and then it comes back to the select board for actually adopting the plan. Kind of typical federal bureaucracy. But in short, it's an update of the plan from 2007 was the last.
2011?
11.
Okay. So thanks, members of the board. So the hazard mitigation process, this is the third version of this plan, the 2005 one, the 2011. We worked with Dean and then Lee Crone from our staff also did a lot of early type work on this particular plan. The plans are good to adopt both for abstract reasons and practical reasons. The abstract one is that hazard mitigation planning is a good idea in general to identify what your hazards are in the community, what's your relative risks and vulnerabilities, and then figure out where your gaps are and try to put together projects to mitigate hazards. Mitigation is different than preparedness, it's different than response, and it's different than recovery. One of the four different phases you have emergency management, but it's very distinct in that the focus is on typically bricks and mortar projects to do things that will reduce or avoid future likely damages. So typically, if you have culverts that tend to get plugged all the time, and roads that get overtopped, or road ditches that get washed out, or there is no ditch, so the road gets washed out. You know this happens regularly. We try to improve those. The more common nationally is elevating homes in the floodplain or moving them completely. Those are obvious factors that
Which we don't have many, if any, we don't have, I don't think any homes in a floodplain.
yeah, not that,
Maybe Thompson's Point.
not that I can think of, again, just because of the nature of the topography.
Calvert's Way, is it?
It's in the
Fluvial erosion corridor, Robert's Way is where at?
Albert's Way, it's out in North Spear Street.
Yeah,
It's the confluence of the two streams.
right, okay. Yeah, there's
Is
some,
that
there's,
listed in there? Is that right?
What's that?
Is that listed in?
It is shown in one of the maps.
some of the maps, if you zoom in on some of the maps, you can see what some properties are in the what's called the river corridor or fluvial erosion hazard zone. Those are not formal FEMA zones, those are more of a state mapping exercise we've done. So there's quite a bit of, what's the word?
That's where that is right there.
Oh, yeah, right. So some is right on the perimeter of those. So, so the abstract reason of generally planning is a good idea. In the early 2000s, when this started, FEMA made having plans conditional if municipalities wish to apply for certain grants. Not the same as disaster assistance, but wish to apply for grants. And then the state, starting in 2014, toughened up the rules by which the state would provide match in the event of a disaster. So right now, the general formula is the feds cover 75% of the cost, and then state and local government's going to cover the remaining 25%. Starting in 2014, October 2014, the state said, okay, you have to, effective October 2014, you have to have four things in hand if the state's going to provide 12.5%. You have to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, as the town does. You have to adopt VTrans's road and bridge standards for municipalities, the orange book as it's sometimes called. 2, you have to adopt every spring the local emergency operations plan. Lee Cronin's probably works with you guys on that. 2, state made that a new one to kind of force municipalities and select boards to go, oh, what's the road foreman cell number, or where's the vulnerable neighborhoods, things like that. What's the plan for, who's going to call the vet if there's a disease outbreak? All these kinds of just basic forcing towns to check in on these things. Local emergency operations plans, and then the 4th one is having an approved all hazard mitigation plan. So that being the case, we've at the county level we've helped to write these plans. Like I said, this is the 3rd iteration of it. We have a county document called the multi-jurisdictional plan. It's 180 plus pages. And it serves primary purposes. It captures all the thick description that FEMA requires in their planning process. The description of hazards, the general overview, all the rich detail which FEMA likes people to have. And then the smaller municipal hazard mitigations are technically they're annexes to this larger county document. We worked, this version is got bigger in some respects because of a lot more boilerplate we had to put in to make FEMA happy. But essentially it's this winnowing down process. Well, there's lots of hazards that happen occur in the town. Severe winter storms and flooding, power outages and things like that. Then you look at those hazards and you go, okay, well, what are we really vulnerable to? What are the risks, what are the vulnerabilities? And then sort of a gap analysis. So severe winter storm is the most common and causes the most economic impact. And your budget-wise to have junior do the work, et cetera, things like that. But severe winter storm, which affects all our municipalities here, is well managed by all municipalities. So there's no discrete new strategy in the plan for severe winter storm. It's not necessary. The other thing that we did with this document is that FEMA was like, well, in the old plans you have a lot of stuff that was kind of like sheltering or enhanced communication between the schools and the fire department and general emergency planning. Well, that's fine, but that's not really mitigation. So we took a lot of that out. So it's gone in terms of the overall strategies. So in the end, we're left with 2 basic strategies of one that's was sort of a continuation, which is working on roads. So there's a category A there, talking about those kinds of projects to continue upgrading culverts, upgrading ditching, all those kinds of things help to mitigate not only severe rainstorm, which we added as a discrete hazard, because many times you have damage on a road and it's not because of flooding or erosion in the stream, it's just too much rain too fast. And then also it addresses the issue of water pollution, which we created as a new hazard because of the amount of funds that our towns have to spend and will have to spend to address Lake Champlain issues. And then the second one of the implement the road stormwater management plan is a new strategy we have for all our rural towns to address the draft municipal roads general permit, which is out for public comment right now from DEC, because all towns in Vermont, with the exception of the Gores, will have to comply with this no matter what their application is. So since that was the other thing we tried to do, if there were projects and things we knew that the towns were doing or the regional plan were doing, and they had a hazard mitigation element to it, we wanted to put them in the plan. So that's the real focus on the roads, and we're already well underway with that, having worked with the town to do the road erosion inventory, and indeed already applied for some extra grant funding the state was giving out this summer to do some projects. So that's the focus of the plan, much more narrow focus on it. And like I say, all we're trying to do now, the purpose of this meeting is just to get the sign off from the select board so I can mail it into FEMA. Actually, I give it to Vermont Emergency Management. They give it a quick read through, transmit it to FEMA. And then FEMA will look at it and say, okay, and they've done this with all the plans, we're following the same template. They'll turn it around and say, okay, you now have permission to adopt the plan. If there are any other until we do that final version, when you guys adopt the draft resolution, we've got time to catch any more typos or little grammatical things. We don't really want to change the strategies, things like that, but if there's other descriptions we're missing or minor edits, we can make those later. But I guess I'm kind of pleading with you guys, like, we kind of got to mail this in now because the clock's already ticking. There's also a weird twist in that some of our state staff at Emergency Management are being dispatched to Texas and Florida to help out. So that's kind of the thing that state agencies do, is help FEMA out, So we kind of like to get it moving along down the track.
I just was looking quickly at page 20 with the rail incident risk assessment. Chris Davis is here. It looks encouraging that you've put in there the high level of concern that municipal officials have about hazardous materials on freight trains.
Yeah, it's to some extent it's a hard one. We had not only coming from Charlotte, some downtown Burlington residents. I had loads of comments from South Burlington and Winooski people about F-35s. Like, well, it's still primarily a preparedness and response issue, and I really can't tell the Air Force what to do with hazard mitigation plan. So, but we try to acknowledge it and make people aware of it. And I think in the case of the rail issue, Lee Crohn's will do what he can. They'll encourage more trainings, more consultation, and the railroad's open to that. That's it. And so I have an unenviable task, and you guys have to do this too. Like, well, there's limited things a hazard mitigation plan or a town plan can do to affect federal rail law. So, for better or worse.
Well,
we acknowledge it, and they.
I appreciate seeing it in the report.
Dan, and you was, you were there, Fritz, and Lane. We sat in, and I can't remember if you were there also, Carrie, but you were there.
Yeah.
So we did what we could to get it in there. Because it's something we have.
Yeah.
It's worth noting.
Right.
There's not a whole lot we can do about it, except maybe more preparedness, which we will continue to try to do.
And just keeping it on the radar, and certainly there are counterparts in New York State that have the same concern, because the track goes right along the edge of the water.
Yeah. Which we share.
Yeah,
There's a number of things in here that we will do according to strategies. And some of them look like they could be voluminous. And like a capital budget and program every year for transportation and stormwater. We haven't done one of those. We're gonna have to do one of those.
Where is that?
I'm on page 44. We're gonna do bicycle traffic through the town and pedestrian traffic. We're gonna improve that. And I know that that's.
Well, these are excerpts from your town plan.
Those are sort of a direct conflict to what a vote to put in a sidewalk, and they voted not to do it. So to me, there's an issue with how can you promise to fix this stuff when we've already voted not to do it.
Yeah, the language you're citing there is from the town plan. We try to show FEMA to demonstrate policies that, and plans that towns do that are not specifically called hazard mitigation, but actually have a hazard mitigation benefit. So that's why there's a reference, multiple references to language in the town plan.
So that's the existing town plan, there's one that's a draft, that's, planning commission is having a hearing on October 12th. I don't know whether that language has changed yet or not, but fact is, this is the current plan until the new one is adopted.
It also refers to our capital budget in the, on page 57 for the developed road stormwater management plan, the capital budget that we don't have for that. So, I mean, it's budget season, we gotta come up with a capital budget according to this.
Well, it says we'll review the need for a capital budget. We may decide that there's no need.
Yeah, part of this language comes from DEC, and what capital budgets, maybe a little bit, I won't say it's a term of art. But what the state wants to see, when you guys apply for this, you're gonna apply for this permit in July 2018. Sorry, you're gonna have to. And then by 2020, you're gonna have to file a plan that says, we did our inventory with regional planning, these are the bad road segments, here's our plan to fix them, and here's how we're gonna budget for it.
Which is similar to the recreation planning that we were just talking about. You know, these are the projects we have, this is the amount of time we want to implement. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So it gives us some time to
But
prepare for it.
and you guys do you guys have a formal capital budget?
No.
As opposed to capital
Planning.
C, capital B?
Right.
You set aside money each year, but it's different than
For fire and rescue.
Yeah, we have specific capital
Specific things,
funds.
Conservation fund, fire
Yeah.
rescue fund.
We have some
Few,
capital
but you
funds.
haven't got a big one
You
yet.
don't have a standalone.
Someday.
Standalone, separate budget.
But we don't have a lot of town facilities, so that's
Yeah.
why it hasn't really been a hot button.
Well, what we've learned in Shelburne is this stormwater thing. If, I mean, there's rumbling that parts of McCabe's Brook, which are in one corner of Charlotte, right? Doesn't McCabe's cross line kill? Doesn't?
No.
But if the state determines these waterways are deficient, and they have these other terms, impaired, all of a sudden, I mean, Shelburne, just on this Monroe Brook section up there, is looking at almost $5 million worth of stuff that's gonna have to be done over the next 10 years. So I think
Yeah.
20, so they're budgeting over 20 years, but it's starting right now with a budget that's gonna be somewhere between $500,000 and $750,000 in this, going into this present budget. They're trying to figure out how they're gonna pay for it, put in a tax rate, do a special fund, create a utility, blah, blah, blah. All I'm saying is, when I ask the questions, because I'm on that committee in Shelburne, because I've got a property that I manage, it's pretty large, it's gonna get hit hard with that, potentially. Even though it's a farm, farms have to pay. Even though they're open space, blah, blah, blah. But if they're in that watershed, anyway, they gotta figure out how to do it. And it just dropped out of the sky. And if La Platte drops on them too, there'll be a new budget thing starting for a new multi-million dollars worth of stuff that needs to be done to fix it. And this is where the state's going, right? I mean, basically, I'm simplifying it, but it's where the state is headed.
I mean, that's a different issue. The roads, I mean, that's, they overlap, but it's a little different.
Right, that's right.
Report, I figured that sooner or later, when all of this stuff that we will or say we're gonna do or have to do, we're gonna have to hire a half-time employee to keep track of it all. And my other question was, one of them was, does the road commissioners have to sign this also?
They don't have to sign it.
Because Junior's on the hook to write all kinds of reports, and I bet he doesn't even know that.
Oh, well, not this hazard mitigation plan, and then this, I think the state is doing this permit for 240 some towns. They're trying to keep it as simple as possible, a simple, like, one-page form, where each town will report, we fixed 500 linear feet on this road, a simple spreadsheet. We're ahead of the game because we've already done the inventory with the town this summer. And that inventory is good for the for 5 years. So you get completely hammered next year by rainstorms, and hypothetically, those wouldn't be in the inventory. So we'll be able to help with regional planning, and I think it's a simple checklist, which Junior may have in his head already, and stuff like that. But the point is that every 5 years we'll be checking in on this. And the good news is that the state, both DEC and V-Trans are trying to put as much money as they can into, this basic road work. It's not rocket science to rock line these ditches and check dams and outlets to get the water, filtrated into the woods and keep it from rushing down the roads and washing things out. Charlotte's pretty fortunate. Your damage history shows that you're fortunately pretty flat.
Our biggest offender for all of those erosion things is the state and Mount Philo. They're gonna have to close the park. Because the road's never good, the road going up there is not gonna be able to be fixed according to the standards and what they just put out. So I don't know what they're gonna do with it.
Some retention pond.
Fill up the park and make it yeah. It's just gonna be a hiking path, we're filling in the road.
Chris, you were saying that it's the taxpayers in Shelburne that will have to pay for that cleanup?
Well, they're looking for two different strategies. Right now, it's coming in, it's in budget, so it's taxpayers. So the other strategy they're looking at is like Colchester, South Burlington, Williston, a few other towns have created the stormwater utility, which allows them to actually tax every parcel. And currently, parcels that are not taxed the same way.
And where'd the problem come from the beginning?
In Roebrook, the state, yes, monitors these things and found out that it was deficient, it didn't have the right number of bugs and plants, and it had other things in it. But what they were explaining to us is that's probably going to get broadened to road salt in the future.
That's the next one that's coming.
Right. This is all coming down the pipe. But
it's going
to trickle down, it's going to hit the bigger towns first, but I'm just saying that even though we have a policy of putting down very little salt, it still means you got to inventory it and track it, and then they're testing for it. When they start seeing it, they start identifying areas, and basically, people in this town have been doing that on Lewis Creek because of Marty's work. They've been doing a lot of that pilot work on Lewis Creek.
She's probably got salt numbers too. So.
She probably does. I'm just saying it was a rude awakening for me. Not even a month ago, when I was asked to be on this committee in Shelburne, and they were explaining where they were going with this and how much money was involved, and literally between one meeting and the next, 3 weeks later, they doubled the budget. They thought, we think we're going to need about 400,000. Now it's like 550, 600, 750, and the numbers that they're looking at for these projects that they've got estimates on that will get refined as they get closer, but they have to budget for this stuff. Just like the bigger, again, it's going to be trickled down the big towns first. It was an awakening for me. And it's wise to have a thing in here and know that you guys, in the next couple of years, are going to be putting together some kind of budget.
And one thing to think about too, even with the grants, the state's going to provide funding, usually 80-20, but is budgeting in 20% miscellaneous for any grants you apply for. So whether it's ecosystem restoration grants or through V-Trans, having that kind of matches there. And so, yeah, it's there. It's not the whole issue of the lake and water quality in general is not going away. And yeah, in the old days, it was just what's called the MS4 towns, municipal separate storm sewer towns. South Burlington got ahead of the curve. So, okay, we need a utility. I live in South Burlington. I pay about $85 a year.
Yeah, it's under $100 for the average home. Right. That's what Shelburne's trying to do.
Yeah.
But the new one is they're going to open it up, and like the businesses are going to, they think in Shelburne you do individually. They're going to measure their roofs, their parking lots, their driveways, and their number's going to be more like 100 to $200 a month over the course of a year. So that's a whole new thing, especially when you're looking at
thing with the garage.
Well, like a perfect example, like Automaster spent when they did their new parking lots, and John, the automaster guy is on the committee as well, John DeRue. They spent $800,000 on stormwater management for the new parking lots. And they're still gonna be possibly hit with this, fee per month, even though they're the model in the state of Vermont for how to control your stormwater. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it evolves. Because smaller towns or more rural towns like Charlotte, it's gonna be interesting how it works in.
Well, there are a lot, right?
Right.
Near the mouth of the.
We have so much lakefront, and we know every drop of water that falls in this town is going to the lake. It's not a question, that it's not. It is. So, anyway, it's going to be interesting to see.
So I mean, there's a larger thing, the state has put more money into the ag, to try and increase clean water funding in general and providing, matching grants to the agricultural community as well to start.
And so what about like in the Burlington, the municipal towns? I hear that there's, raw sewage goes out into the lake. Is that really true? And, like how
In
come
certain areas,
we always go to the farmer all the time?
Combined sewer. So they're trying, South Burlington's trying to upgrade all its stormwater systems to keep some of that storm flow out of the sewer.
Is Burlington?
Burlington still has some of that. They're getting grant money fast.
It's always the farmer that they say first. When really from Burlington, there's quite a problem.
Virginia's has some issues sometimes.
Burlington to add a separate stormwater system, separate from their sewer system, it'd be billions of dollars. I mean, they gotta dig up all the streets.
Yeah, so they still, most of it is separate, but there still are some areas where it's combined sewer.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just on the radar.
So yeah, so certain of them, and then certain of the plants, the wastewater treatment plants have to do some updates. Most of ours are in pretty good shape and have high efficiencies of phosphorus removal and stuff, so anyway, roundabout.
So it looks like you're not looking for action tonight?
The only action we need is just give the blessing for
Probably should have a motion just accepting it, not adopting it.
accepting it and, directing RPC staff to forward it on to Vermont Emergency Management for review and so on.
And then we get another chance to review it
Yeah.
before it actually.
Yeah.
Right, like I say, so if you've got time, they're even over the next, several weeks while it's sitting on FEMA's desk somewhere, you apply little typos or only want to add some description here. Don't change the strategies, don't change your risk assessment, but if you find
I just didn't quite finish.
little things in
reading
here
it.
that need clarification, or we find mistakes on the maps or.
Yeah, there's
There's gonna be no chance to change any of this.
Yeah, we're basically,
I know, I know
it is
that.
what it is.
Basically-
No, I know.
Basically, if we okay this to be sent to FEMA now, tonight, it gets sent to FEMA. There may be a chance to do some little thing before they actually okay it, but it's gonna be like an email thing I'm assuming, or some kind of discussion with them, and then when it comes back to
Right, so
us.
when I send it back, if FEMA says, go ahead and adopt, you guys adopt the resolution, there's minor, like I say, between now and the time you vote, any minor grammatical edits, extra sentences of description, that's all fine, we can make those changes. That's no big deal. I just want to make sure you're comfortable with the strategies in here, which are pretty winnowed down. There's stuff you're going to have to do already, you're already doing, so.
When it quotes our existing town plan, that we're probably gonna vote on a different one in March.
Right.
Are we,
This is basically at the time I'm writing, at the time this plan was drafted, I'm citing the plans that are in effect at the time it was drafted. And it's merely by reference, the purpose of that citation there is to show FEMA our towns do a lot of stuff already that has, it's good hazard mitigation plan. You have a conservation area, use a conservation fund, you try to have adequate. It shall be the policy of the town of so-and-so to adequately maintain its road. That's a hazard mitigation strategy. Not call it directly, but it is. So that's the purpose of that section.
When are these, once they're adopted, Dan, when are they typically looked at?
We will start again. We're going to try to do a better job of annually checking in. in November, December, mostly by talking to Dean and to Junior, saying, okay, what roads did you fix? What projects did you do? And then we'll start again in 2021-ish, updating the plans so that we're ready to go back to FEMA with new plans before these expire on March 5th, 2022. The clock already started ticking because we do a multi-jurisdictional document, and our first approval was Richmond in March. So, and you guys are the last one. So thank you.
Is there a motion?
It's up to you, Rich.
I don't like this thing at all. It's like taking your medicine. I'll make a motion to approve submitting the all hazards mitigation plan as presented. What's the date to refer to this thing by?
Today's date.
Whatever date you have on, you made some edits, so.
Maybe just say presented at the September 25th.
Sure.
Town of Charlotte 2017 all hazard mitigation plan.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Further discussion, I guess?
In the future, lots of it. It's gonna cost a bunch of money, I know it.
It does seem like it's on to put
Have to have a,
on notice for a lot of things.
What happens if we didn't do this? Then what?
No grants?
have a cost mitigation plan.
If you did have
Saying
a
it.
disaster, a federally
Saying.
declared disaster,
Your
you
next
had to
ice
fix a
storm.
road,
Yeah.
the state would say, we're not gonna give you 12.5% towards the cost, we're only gonna give you 7.5, you'd be on the hook for 5 cents on the dollar for repair costs if there was a disaster. If you had a declared disaster in Charlotte, you have a project where FEMA comes out, or a debris storm is a common one these days.
So when you look at this and the number of claims we have actually made,
Well, yeah, that's true. There's plenty of them.
historically, it's like, we're gonna be cheaper if we don't do it.
And how many towns are doing it?
All 18 are all, I mean, you guys are the last one that hasn't adopted yet, so.
In the state of Vermont?
Oh, in the state of Vermont, no, I'm just thinking of the county. I mean, most,
State of Vermont?
state of Vermont, I think we've got 220 out of. 240 something. Yeah, there's a handful of towns.
And do other states do this sort of thing? What's
A
this?
lot of states, yeah, New England, there are a lot of town plans chip away slowly but surely on them. Other states do county hazard mitigation plans. There's county government.
There's actually a page in here that tells us about how many claims that filed.
Right.
Well, like
Not-
the ice
I
storm
think
was
it's
a big one, 150,000.
Yeah, Mount Philo State Park.
No, we probably didn't even put in as much as we should have in the ice storm, but, they, Robert Mack, I think, was chair back then, right?
I don't know,
I
just
know.
advanced advertising, Chris is gonna be back in, I think it was October
October
23rd for discussing emergency response preparedness in general, based on the emergencies that we've been seeing around the
No more
country.
discussion. All those in favor? Aye? 3, 4.
Could it cost more money?
Bunch of
Opposed?
reluctant votes.
Yeah. Yes, note that, reluctant votes.
Thank you, Dan,
Thanks.
4 ayes.
and thank you, Chris.
Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's see, approve warrants to pay bills. There are a few warrants.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I did sign payroll this afternoon in Lane's absence.
Thanks, guys. All set with me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
One thing I was thinking of, because we talked about getting a generator for the senior center.
Yeah.
The thing we don't have for either the fire department, the senior center, or the town hall is a generator that runs the sewer. So we'll have water and power, but you still can't use the toilets.
Well, I think the way you check it is yeah, that would be good to.
Because there's a pump station out here that's powered by this right here in the office.
And isn't the, it's gravity from fire station to here?
It's gravity to the pump station right out in the green.
And then that's the one.
Then it pumps it up there, and that's not a holding tank, it's just a pump station. It holds like
Well, I
500 or 1,000 gallons.
part of what you and I will probably end up doing, Fritz, is trying to brainstorm a better way to handle it if our power's out for a week. You know, and get this building, because that's gonna be a critical thing.
This building, the fire department, and the senior center all need that sewer. They're all useless without it for a day, maybe. You got plenty of water, but you can't flush the toilet.
Right. I'm with you.
Or it'll just bubble up and fill up our green out here.
I think, yeah.
It'll go downhill.
Downhill. And then we're downhill.
Oh, no. Oh, that's good. It's good thing you think of.
Motion to adjourn. Is that what we're now?
Sure. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, third.
All those in favor?
Aye.